Well, I mean, memory can be, what you remember from a few days ago or from many, many, many years ago. So it always involves memory. It rarely involves what's happening in front of my face, except for actually the painting, which is current. But the inspiration for the painting always comes from back pages. I'll see an image and I'll take a photograph of it, or I'll take a cutting out of a newspaper. I'll store images, and then I'll either, after a time, and it's very rare that I find an image and make a painting right away. It's usually I've had the image for 10 years or so. It's like things that stick around, and I think, well, actually that feels like it's worthy. It's worth making a painting of, really. It's worthwhile. It's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm not the type of person who makes many paintings. So if I'm going to spend the time making a painting on something, which sometimes can be quite a number of years, it has to be something I feel is worth the time and the effort, really. I have been influenced by Japanese photography or photograph that I found a newspaper photograph that reminded me very much of a Japanese painting in the sense that the landscape was red, sort of like from top to bottom, and so it felt like there was little what I would consider to be sort of Western perspective involved, and I made a painting called Ski Jacket, which was based on that. I also made a painting, yes, not based on actually on the film, but on the feel of the film, really, and the feel of the film making, the feel of the camera work and the space, and the sense of making a painting of someone who was deep in thought. I made the painting shortly after screening Tokyo Story at my film club in Trinidad. It was a painting of a man walking with a parasol along the side of a cemetery. In the painting you don't see the cemetery, but if you read the title and you do a little bit of research, or if you're from the locality, which is Port of Spain in Trinidad, you would know that the big cemetery is behind the wall that he's walking alongside. I don't really try to bring an air of mystery into every painting, but I think there are a number of paintings that have that, and in a way the painting sort of decides that for me, really, and then the painting will shift and I'll put more emphasis on that side of it. For instance, like the La Perouse wall painting, I became very aware of the man I was painting sort of attitude and his just the amount of information I gave about who he was, and his facial expression, stuff like that. That was very important in that painting, was to keep that quite mysterious and not to be revealed, really, other than hopefully by the viewer themselves. For what seemed like the longest time, I didn't really want to put any figures in the paintings, so there'd be buildings that somehow represented human presence, to begin with, quite sort of modest structures, farmhouses, sheds, burnt-out buildings that had sort of facades that almost looked sort of like faces. All things that I'd seen, but and I was attracted to painting. So the human presence was really suggested rather than actually there. And then I made the Ski Jacket painting, which had literally hundreds of people in it. And so that was sort of the breakthrough in a way for me to actually make figurative paintings. And then after that came paintings like the ones you suggested, like the one of my brother Andrew Blotter and my daughter Alice, and the Laperouse wall painting. Other paintings like Red Boat. I'd met some characters who I wanted to kind of make a painting of, but I had no pictures of them, and so I found a postcard. I wasn't literally searching for it, but I found a postcard, and it reminded me of them, and so I used that as a sort of stand-in, like by proxy, really. Maybe that's why the features are less detailed, really. I can't really think of a painter who hasn't been influenced by film, contemporary painter, really. I think we all have been, really. Film, photography first, then film. But yes, I guess being influenced by the cinematic and, the shots that precede action, maybe. Those things kind of influenced me. The way a scene is set with a shot in a film could be of influence, yeah. I try not to quote film too directly. I have done on occasion, but rarely, really. And sometimes, the level of description is kind of like a middle ground shot, like you'd see in a film where you see a group of figures from a distance, or in the close distance. You don't really see the features that clearly, but their body language suggests a lot, really, and that's something that I like to work with. I think Trinidad, questions of belonging, questions of why am I here, questioning what's valid to depict, being an outsider in a sense, looking in, although I have an affinity to the place because I spent many years there. I mean, especially going back to when I was a child as well, and very formative years, formative experiences and sensations. But not being directly connected to the culture. And I see the culture of Trinidad as being Afro-Indian. And their experience, that has formed the culture of Trinidad. And so I was, on the outside of that, looking in and taking it in and observing and thinking about it. That was very important to me. Canada was more because a culture, a country of immigrants, really, and everyone has a place in Canada. It's one of those countries in a positive way. So, you join in from a start. The cultural experience becomes your culture. So naturally, as a young person, you gravitate towards, winter sports, for instance. You have 6 months of winter. You learn to ski, you learn to skate, you learn about the outdoors. Even in a city setting, you have to sort of battle the outdoors much more so than you do in a situation like in London. It's quite a physical place to grow up. Shoveling snow, and not so much these days, but when I was a kid, there was always so much snow in the winter, and you had to sort of help your father get his car out in the mornings, because it snowed 3 feet overnight. So, as I say, quite a physical relationship with weather and the landscape. The paintings feel very much connected to, my life, really. The journey, the life. It sounds corny, but sort of like my life as I've lived it. So they're all connected in those ways. I mean, some are a little bit more distant. a little bit sort of more obtuse. But a lot of them most of them are sort of connected to my life.